Rolling.
Sound, speed, background action. Action.
Joe Zakowski.
Jacqueline Jack. So I'm a big fan of this show called Game of Thrones, and 2 weekends ago I went out to Dallas for a fan convention, and it was amazing because I've never been to Texas before. But well, I flew out there. The flight was only about 4 hours, no, 3 hours. I landed in the middle of the night, almost like midnight, so I was nervous about getting to the hotel. I wasn't sure if they had Uber there, because some hotels don't allow Uber. I mean, airports don't allow for Uber to come there, so I was worried. But I was able to get an Uber, went to the hotel, and right on the floor they had a map of the Westeros world, which is the world that Game of Thrones takes place in, and I just felt so happy to finally be there. And I checked in, made friends with the little person working there, and got upstairs to my room. I went totally by myself, by the way, because I don't have friends who are big enough fans to want to do that. Anyway, I went to my room, got all settled in, and got prepared to put on my cosplay outfit, because of course I dressed up like one of the characters. She is called Melisandre. She wears all red, and I had this really long red wig. So I brushed it out for about 30 minutes, went to bed, woke up the next day, and all in the hallway you can hear people yelling and screaming and already getting started on the day. And when I open my door, the first thing I see is somebody else dressed in like a Jon Snow costume. And Jon Snow is he's like one of the main characters in the show, so automatically I was like, yes, I'm in the right place. So go downstairs, and still nervous about meeting people, but went outside for a cigarette, and the very first person I saw clicked for the whole rest of the weekend. So we went to panels together, we went to the bar together, we met some of the actors from the show, so that was just an awesome time for me.
Great, and we're going to keep rolling. And I'm going to ask you to say your names to each other again, and then I'm going to ask my gentleman friend to then say one of your stories. So say your names to each other again.
Joe Zakowski.
Jacqueline Jack.
I grew up in Philadelphia, and when I was 7 years old, my family moved to another part of the city. So I was starting, I guess it was second grade. So we arrived there, and I guess it was a weekend that we moved. So that Saturday, I went outside to look for kids to play with. And we lived next to a schoolyard. It was a public school, John Paul Jones Junior High. I remember it like it was yesterday. And there was a bunch of kids playing on the other side of the schoolyard. So I walked down, and fortunately there were a couple of kids from my school, even though we were a couple of miles away from school. So I said hi to them, and they actually introduced me to some of the other kids, and a lot of them were a little older than I. So I was like the youngest and the shortest. So fortunately they accepted me, kind of, and so at that point they started playing stickball and basketball and just hanging out. So fortunately it was summertime still, so we had all summer to get to know each other, and just having a few friends from school kind of eased the transition. I'm still friendly with a couple of them today. Like a lot of people, we found each other through Facebook, and I actually had a chance to get together with one of the guys that I grew up with. We both were into music, and he is now with the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra, and I knew he played the French horn, but I never knew he sang. It's a secret that he kept from all of us. And I come to find out that he was a member of the Philadelphia Boys Choir, and no one from our gang knew that. And that he was a boxer. Nobody knew that either. So it's interesting how later on in life you find out about things that you never knew about someone, even though you hung out with each other practically every day.
Great.
So that's my story.
Say your names to each other again, please.
Joe Zakowski.
Jacqueline Jack.
And we're going to keep rolling, and just please change chairs. Don't move them. And you're going to say your names to each other again, and this time, Jacqueline, you're going to start.
Jack-
I lied to you. Joe, you're going to start with your second story, okay? And go ahead.
Jacqueline Jack.
Joe Zakowski. When I guess it was 22 years old, I had the opportunity of taking a job in California. So I was still single at the time, but I had met my now wife probably about 6 months ago. So it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do was to, well, not say goodbye, but, we'll keep things going, which was difficult. But anyway, I took off and I moved to California with a bunch of other people from work. It was an exciting opportunity that none of us could pass up. So once we got there, it was sort of a culture shock, moving a kid from Philadelphia, moving to Southern California, Pasadena in particular. So when I first arrived, everyone else had been there a couple of weeks prior. So when I arrived, they told me, all right, I believe it was a Sunday, and they were attending a concert at some college out there. I forget the name of the college. And so I eventually found the blanket that everyone was sitting on listening to the concert. And next thing you know, I started smelling something that I hadn't smelled before next to me. And of course, turning around, what was that? Of course, I found out what it was. And so from that point on, like in my youth, they had introduced me to everyone that they had met at work and also through social activities outside of work. So that helped, again, ease the transition for me. So I got to meet a lot of people. But getting back to the culture shock thing, I was exposed to many different ethnic groups, different foods that I had never tried before. And it's the first time I ever had Mexican food. First time I ever had Middle Eastern food. So from a lot of different perspectives, there were a lot of firsts going out to California, and I cherish that experience to this day.
Great, and names to each other again, please.
Jacqueline Jack.
Joe Zakowski.
And Jacqueline.
Last night, I was actually really nervous about coming to this class because I haven't really done very much acting in my adult life. I did a lot of high school drama club things, and last year I did improv in New York, and that was a lot of fun. But ever since then, life and school and work starts getting in the way, and before you know it, a year has gone by. So I decided, you know what, now that I'm moved near the city, I'm gonna go and try something new. So the day came, and so I had a tough time sleeping last night. But then I woke up, went to work. I'm a psychiatric nurse, so that job is not very relaxing. It was a bit stressful today. I had one of my patients, very bad anxiety, and he doesn't believe that it can go away. So it's very hard to convince somebody who has these paranoid thoughts about anxiety in their life to not be anxious if they're just expecting it to come. So that was fun to try to calm him down all day, but he really appreciated it at the end of the day, so my spirits were elevated. And then it was 2 hours before coming here. So I was like, oh, okay. I went to McDonald's. I got a sandwich I never got before, the pico guacamole, which is very good. And then, boom, it was time to go, and I was running late, of course, because I'm late to everything. I got here, though, on time, and I'm actually very proud of myself. And as soon as I walked into the door, I met two very nice young ladies who I'm sure we're going to be good friends after this, so I'm totally relieved.
Great, and names for the last time?
Jacqueline Jack.
Joe Zakowski.
And cut, please.
Thank you.